Thanks for tuning in today to Front Porch Conversations. Today we're here at the Harmony Center in front of the fireplace, and it might give you an indication of what the weather's like outside today. It is my pleasure to introduce to you Jackie Christenson. Jackie is fairly new to the village, and we want everybody to get to know you.
Thank you.
And you live in Dallinghouse, correct?
Yes, I do. I moved in August, the end of August, and I'm enjoying it.
Good.
I love my little apartment.
Well, I understand you have a new roommate since you moved in.
Yes, I have a little black and white kitty who's slightly crazy, but, you know, he's very young. He was 3 months old when I got him, and he's about 6 now. But he's typical kitten, and he's into everything. This morning I got up and he knocked all the shoes off the shelf. Things like that.
Normal kitten behavior.
Yes, but he's a very loving kitty.
And what's his name?
Little man.
Well, I'm welcome him as well to the village.
Thank you.
Jackie, would you share with our viewers where you were born and where you grew up?
I was born in Belleville, Illinois, and I grew up there.
And what part of Illinois is that?
That's southern Illinois, right across the river from St. Louis. So I moved down here in 72 or 3. We moved to the St. Petersburg area and stayed there for about 20 years, and then moved up here to Branford. We had about 3 acres in Branford, and which my husband dearly loved. And we stayed there until he died. And when he died, it didn't take me very long to realize I couldn't keep that up. So I sold it and moved into a small trailer in Lake City, then fell and broke my leg. And last March, just before the pandemic really got going, and so I spent from March until August in convent, if you will.
Convent.
Yeah,
A rehab convent.
Yes, but it was a long time.
Sure.
It was a pretty bad break, so it took a long time for it to get. And with the pandemic, we didn't get the physical therapy we normally would have gotten, so it took longer. But here I am.
Well, that was a quick span of your life, but let's go back a little bit.
Okay. When I was in Illinois, let's see.
You had siblings?
There were 7 of us. There were 4 boys and 3 girls. I was the second oldest. And the 2 sisters were born after I'd left home. So they ended up being almost like cousins to my children because of the age thing. And that was very interesting. My poor mother didn't know what to do because she was grandma and mom, all the same time, and that makes things more complicated. But it got to the point to where it was hard to get a job, and all these kinds of things were going on, a lot of stress, let's put it that way, physical stuff going on. And we decided that it would be better down here, that it was less of that going on, and had friends and family down here.
Jackie, so when you were growing up, what were your favorite things to do?
Oh, I was a terrible tomboy. Whatever the boys were doing, that's what I was doing. We played G.I. Joe, tin can golf, all those kinds of things that kids today don't even know what I'm talking about. But it was so you know, so close after the war that all that was kind of still around. So kids just automatically did that. And then they had, on Saturday afternoons, they would have, every Saturday during the summer, they would have movies for the children. And you bought a pass for the whole year, or the whole summer. And so we spent that, and the swimming pool. Oh Lord, I love the swimming pool. So that was my big deal.
Mm-hmm. And then when did you and your husband meet, and how?
Well, I met him, I was working at as a car hop. And he would come in to eat, you know, and we chatted back and forth, and he asked me out, and that one thing led to another.
Well, I have to ask, were you the kind of car hop on roller skates?
No, I didn't do the roller skate thing. No, we didn't do that. I would have broke my neck because I could roller skate, but not that well.
And not with food in each hand? And probably,
no, not with food in each hand. Mm-mm.
So he asked you out on a date?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we went out, trying to remember what we did the first night. I don't even know. I probably went to the movie. That was always the thing to do. And if you really wanted a fancy date, you went to St. Louis to the theater, to the movie theater, because it was a big, fancy theater. And so that's pretty much what we did the most, because he didn't like to dance, and I loved to dance, so we had that issue, but that's okay. And he would take me to his parents' house and his uncle's house, and they liked to play pinochle. So he taught me how to play double-deck pinochle, which was quite complicated in the beginning. I get so frustrated because we were losing all the time, and then I'd throw something down and they'd say, no, you can't do that, you still have those. And they were German and still spoke German. So when they we'd be talking and they would lapse into German, and I'd go, okay, what are we saying here? I could never, you know, and he wouldn't interpret, so.
Did your husband speak German?
Yes.
But English as well, right?
Yes, but he was more English than the German. He only spoke the German with the parents and the uncles and, you know, the family. Other than that, he didn't speak German.
And then he asked you to marry him?
Let's see, we started dating February, March, and then the following May we got married. And he was Roman Catholic, so I had to convert to Roman Catholicism, which wasn't a big deal. I'd grown up Baptist, so it was kind of a, it wasn't too bad a change because my uncle and aunt were both Roman Catholic, so I was very familiar with the church that way. We had 4 children, and so
did were the children born after you moved to Florida or before?
I'm sorry?
Where were your children born?
They were all born in Illinois. Okay. Yeah, I had 1 son, the oldest, and then 3 girls. And they were all 2 years or so apart.
And how many grandchildren do you have?
A bunch. About 8 grandchildren and 11 great-grandchildren.
Congratulations.
Yeah. It gets very busy when there's a holiday because I send them each a card, like Valentine's Day. Dollar General and I get along well.
Oh, good. people, if they haven't bought their Valentine's cards, probably need to get over there soon.
Yes, I've done all the Valentine cards. They're sitting there waiting until it's time to mail them out. February is also very busy for birthdays. We have 6 birthdays in February. And then March, we have 5 or 6 in March.
And you also have a birthday this month.
Yes, mine's Monday, I think.
I think that's right. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Well, tell us about after you got to Florida.
Well, I was I liked it, but I was very confused because in Illinois, everything was still very, when you went to church, you wore heels, you wore nylons, and a hat. Down here, they wore sandals and, whatnot. And we went to the first time we went to the movie, of course, I did my heels and stockings and all that stuff. They all had shorts and crop tops on. And I went, this is different. The kids adored the beach. So very often I would take after work, I would grab dinner at KFC or something like that, take them to the beach and let them play in the water, and then we would eat dinner, and then I'd go home and wash them down and put them to bed. And they loved that. So.
And when you were talking about going to church, what church did you go to? When you were in Florida after you moved?
After Florida, we sort of wandered around and ended up in a Brethren church, which was kind of an offshoot of the German Baptist. Kids loved it. I liked it. And then when I met my second husband, he was not real happy there. He was born and raised Lutheran. And so when he says, I just can't go to church anymore. And I said, fine, you find a church, but we will go to church. So he found a little Lutheran church not too far from the house. We went there. And I fell in love because it's kind of a combination of what I'd grown up with in the Baptist and the
liturgy, would that
the
be?
liturgy, thank you, the liturgy of the Roman Catholic. And so I was absolutely in love. I loved it. And so we went there the whole time we were in St. Petersburg, and then when we moved up here, couldn't find one that we quite connected with. So we ended up in the Episcopalian church, which is just about the same.
What kind of work did you do, Jackie, through your career?
Well, I worked as a waitress in a restaurant for about most of the time that I was down there. When I moved up here, I decided I was still working as a waitress. But then one day I thought, I can't do this when I'm 80. So I worked around and managed to get a couple student loans and stuff, went back to school, and ended up working for an attorney. I worked for her for about 10 years. And was kind of an all-around person, I didn't do this, do that, do the other. So it wasn't anything, I would have liked to become a paralegal, but I just never got around to taking enough education for that. And she was happy with me the way I was, and I was happy, so we didn't pursue it any further.
Well, you and I met because you are Episcopalian, and
Yes.
one of your friends called me as soon as you moved in and said, you need to meet Jackie. And so it's been fun. We've been going back and forth to church together
Yes.
and to our Daughters of the King group, ladies group.
Yes,
But-
I appreciate that too.
Well, I appreciate the companionship and getting to know you. But you have talked about some of the work you and your husband did on mission trips in response to disasters.
One of the things that I did when I moved up here was I ended up working with the Red Cross. And so we did a lot of bouncing around the country after disasters. He and I both went to New York after 9/11. I think I've probably been to New Orleans and Louisiana 4 or 5 times, different times. After Katrina, the Diocese of Florida really encouraged their people to go out there and help. And so we went with the church. He went a couple of times to one of the islands. I can't remember the name of the island, but it was after, I think the hurricane was Marie, but it was really a terrible disaster for the people. And he stayed in the parish hall with the priest did their laundry. That cracked me up. But he was there for about a month. And because it's it's too far to go
For a short trip.
A short trip. So they spent about a month there, and he really liked that. So.
And then did you also go on some other trips around this area, closer to this area, or?
Well, with the Red Cross, there were a lot of like fire calls.
Oh,
They'd
okay.
call me anytime there was a fire, and we would go and see what we could do for the person to help them get back on their feet. It's just really, most of the time, it's a very sad situation because you're limited in what you can do, and yet there's so much they need. So about the only thing you can do is meet their immediate needs. Maybe clothes, put them in a hotel or something like that for a couple nights. But then after that, it's, then it's a long, hard haul for them.
Yes, it is.
So.
But I'm sure you were very comforting to people when you first met with them in the middle of their disaster. And
I tried to be.
yeah. That smile would be enough to help.
Thank you.
Jackie, how did you said in March you were in rehab, and then until August. And how did you learn about the village, or did you already know about the village?
It was my children, actually. Yes, I did know about the village, but my children decided immediately I was not living alone ever again. And so they were the ones that were on the hunt. And my daughter in Melbourne was the one that really led the charge, if you will. And she talked to Karen Thomas, I think. And they battled back and forth a couple times because of the pandemic. They weren't, no one could come in. And of course, the kids were freaking out because Medicare only pays for 100 days. And then after that, it gets very pricey. So they got back and forth, and finally we went through the thing that you got to do, and I was accepted into the village and all that. Then they put me in assisted living thing in Lake City, still waiting to get into the village. And finally, it was they had a spot for me. So then they moved me again.
I know that moving at this time during this pandemic, you haven't gotten to be involved in a lot of things, but I know you've found your way to the pool and.
Yes, I've gone to the pool, and now the pool's open again, so I probably will go back because it's wonderful exercise. And I really enjoy it. I've been trying to do some walking, but that gets a little much, so. But I really, there are things that I really want to do, but I haven't gotten to yet.
Well, we're all hopeful that those days will be behind us before too long.
Yes, we are hopeful. Keeping our fingers crossed.
That's right.
And lots and lots of kneels, kneeling prayers for everything, not just us, but for the community and the country, that they're able to get enough vaccine out there that things will finally settle down and we can kind of go back to, I don't know what normalcy is anymore, but
just a different life than we're living right now in confinement.
Yes, one that we can come and go and
have visits and
yes,
gather together.
Yes, that's true. That's the thing that I think I missed that more than anything. Having, being able to get together with people and just, have a good time. Maybe just sit and talk, if nothing else.
Jackie, can you think of a particular time in your life where you really knew your faith was growing? And
yes. I went to Curcio in 1985, 86, somewhere in there. And my husband went first, and we picked him up, and he was bouncing off the walls, and I'm looking at him thinking, this is not my state Norwegian. What did you guys do to him? He doesn't carry on like that. Asking him to pray in public would be like, that isn't happening. But so then I had to wait 2 weeks, and I went, and it is a life-changing experience.
And this is a retreat format, correct?
Yes, it's a 3-day retreat. Most of us were Christians before we went, because they really kind of try to, it's not a thing to bring non-Christians in. It's what it is a leadership training for Christians to get you to really look deep into your faith and then go back to your church or where you worship and take on leadership roles, become more leadership. And
So you would say it changed your life?
Yes. And then, of course, you get to work teams afterwards, which is really just keeps rolling things. But yes, that's probably my most time when I thought I really was. But
it confirmed for you everything.
It confirmed for me everything that I already knew, and unfortunately, growing up Baptist is kind of hellfire and brimstone. And so this was an amazing thing to find out that God loved me and it didn't really matter. It didn't matter. He loved everybody.
That's right.
And that's quite the amazing fact when you really had never been told that before. So,
and seen it lived out right along where you were.
Yes, and that's what kept me going through thick and thin. And after my husband died and I was on my own, that's the thing that I've hung on to. You know,
What advice would you give a young person today?
a young person today, off your cell phone and talk to somebody face to face. I understand, I have grandchildren, so I understand the thing with texting and all that. But I know my grandson that lives here in Lake City is just, he doesn't understand, being together and talking. He's very, what's the word I want, closed, I guess. And so I think that with that kind of constant texting and Facebook and Twitter and what all that stuff is, that they lose that ability somehow, or they miss that one-on-one and being able to really talk to somebody and, other than, hi, how are you doing, da-da-da-da, but, a true conversation. Mm-hmm. So and I know it's very difficult for them. And of course, with the pandemic, it's even worse.
Well, and that's one of my prayers, is that once we're able to not be socially isolated, mm-hmm. that people will have missed that time and face-to-face and be willing to be upfront and personal with people and share and,
right. Mm-hmm.
and grow from there.
Yeah, that's me too. I can't wait for that, to be able to gather. I have, Christmas, Thanksgiving, all that, nothing. It's just been nothing like I'd ever had before. So, and I do miss all that. I really miss all that. But
well, I know for me, my grandchildren live far away. Mm-hmm. And so this year, at least, I got to be on Zoom calls, watching them open Christmas presents and, having different little activities with them. And we've mm-hmm. started reading. So technology has a wonderful place, but
yes,
and particularly in the time like this, but I hope that we get away from our screens and back face to face with people.
Yeah, my one grandson did a Zoom thing with me with his daughter, who is just not quite 2, and that was so funny. She would not cooperate.
Well, I'm going to sign us off for now, but the way my granddaughter did the other day, Grandma, I have a Zoom meeting for my class. She's 6. In just a few minutes, we need to get off the phone. So thank you for watching today. I look forward to you joining us for future Front Porch Conversations.